So there's a man in a Nebraska jail who decided that his religion of Pastafarianism wasn't getting the respect that it deserved. So he petitioned the authorities to allow him to wear his special religious clothing. And he also asked to be allowed to hold services. This is somewhat reasonable requests. Now, all of this, it's not special treatment under the law, so let's be clear. What he's asking for is just to give him equal treatment to every other religion and how they're treated and what they're allowed to do. Well, a federal court in Nebraska heard this case, and they rejected him. And in their decision, they said the following. This is not a question of theology. The Pastafarian gospel is plainly a work of satire, meant to entertain while making a pointed political statement. To read it as religious doctrine would be little different from grounding a religious exercise on any other work of fiction. Yeah. That's the point, bitch. Right over the head of this moron federal judge. You know, call me crazy here, but I think that this Pastafarianism thing is a work of fiction. So why should I treat it like a religion? Because all of the other religions are fill in the blank. Fiction. They're fiction. He's like, look, this is ridiculous. A fucking flying pasta monster? That doesn't even make sense. I don't get it. But obviously, the zombie Jew who died and came back to life, who walked on water and turned water into wine, and the book with the burning bush, and the 900-year-old man that got every animal on a boat to have sex, and all that stuff with the flat earth, and that's real. That's totally real. The one with the, the prophet who rides to heaven on a winged donkey, and the book that says that semen comes from your backbone, and there's talking feet and hands in there, that one's totally true. We allow that one. We make accommodations for Christianity. We make accommodations for Islam. We make accommodations for Judaism. All these great world religions that, of course, are not fiction. There, you're allowed to worship freely. But you got this thing that's obviously fiction with a flying spaghetti monster? So stupid. We're not going to allow special accommodations for that. You walked right into his trap, you idiots. They're so stupid. They don't get it. They're so stupid. The point you're making is the point that he's making. But the conclusion is the opposite of the one you came to. The government is not, under the Constitution, allowed to pick winners and losers of religions. They're not allowed to prop up one or many over others. You're not in that game. Secularism 101 is we're neutral. So if you're going to give rights to one group of people, one religious group, you have to give those rights to other people. Same thing for secularists. I've made this argument on the show before, but if we have special accommodations under law where people can, if you're at your job, you go up to your employer and say, hey, I need off on Saturday for religious reasons. They have to give you those accommodations because you say it's my religion. But if you say, hey, I'm a secularist and I'm tired and I needed a day off, they can say no to you. Well, wait, you just gave special rights to the religious. So if that secular person just said, hey, I'm religious, I need that day off to pray and do my goofy, religious practices, then they would have had to say yes. But if you're honest and say, hey, I'm secular and I just need a day off, like, no, haha, stupid, move away. Well, that's fucking discrimination against secular people. In this case, you're discriminating against Pastafarians. Yeah, it's not real. Neither are the other fucking religions. It's all fucking mythology. Now, people might believe it, and that's fine, but to diagnose it based on that is the government getting far too involved. You can read fucking people's minds. Are you sure there's nobody out there in the history of the world who's ever actually somehow been duped over into believing this? There are 4,000 religions on the planet. Many of them have just absolutely absurd things in them. Probably most, if not all of them do. How the fuck can you look at one, a ridiculous mythological story and say, that one we're going to give you rights to practice however you want, but another one, I'm not going to do that? Well, that means that you are getting too involved and the government is picking winners and losers. They're propping up some religions over other religions, and that's the opposite of the First Amendment. The point of the First Amendment is, the government cannot put one religion above other religions or religion over non-religion. That's the whole point, and you missed it. You walked right into the fucking trap of the Pastafarian. They set it up for you brilliantly, and you're like, let me walk. Well, this is a work of fiction. You can't have rights with this. If you make that argument with Pastafarianism, you got to make it with Christianity. You got to make it with Judaism. You got to make it with Islam. It's always so sad when the cultural bias is so deep that the answer is right in front of them and they can't see it because they're so fucking deluded from the society they were raised in, where they're like, you have to respect the beliefs of these religions. But then somebody comes along and says, okay, well, now I have this religion and I want to do these kinds of practices. Like, ha ha ha, stupid, that's fiction. I want to pull my hair out reading stories like this. So anyway, this will probably get appealed, and then the Supreme Court, or whatever court it goes to next, they'd have to reverse it because, it's the most obvious constitutional case in human history. If you're going to give accommodations to one religion, you can't just say, I'm not going to do it to another religion, and you don't get to determine, you don't get to make the value judgment. I think that one is more legit than that one, because once you start doing that, it's all about subjective opinion, and it's all about what if there's one Jewish judge who says, I'm only going to give it to Judaism, and the Christians, I'm only going to give it to Christians, and Muslims, I'm only going to give it to Muslims, and the others don't count. You can't open that door, because once you open that door, yet again, religious anarchy.